What's going on, guys? Meteorologist Jonathan Kegges back with you. We are talking about a system that will eventually move through the southeast U.S. and into the Florida Peninsula, bringing with it the chance for a couple of days of stronger thunderstorms, then eventually some snow into the mountains of the Mid-Atlantic. We're going to break all of that down in this video. First, want to show you the risk area as we move into Friday. And there you go, that light green shade there through southeast Georgia, southeast South Carolina, and then into the Big Bend, panhandle of Florida, and then north of Orlando. That is going to be the biggest opportunity for some stronger thunderstorms, relatively speaking. We're not talking about a high threat for severe weather by any means, but there's enough enough juice in the atmosphere to get some of those nasty thunderstorms rolling as we get into Friday. You see there that marginal risk, 1 out of 5 on the severe weather scale. So there's enough there to get a few isolated strong thunderstorms going, but we're not talking about widespread storms by any means. As we move into Saturday, as this system, as the front pushes down the Florida Peninsula, the threat goes up a little bit for the central Florida area, still including parts of Jacksonville, especially on the south side of town, but then really expanding through most of the central Florida counties for us in Brevard, all the way up the I-95 corridor, down I-75 from Ocala into Lakeland, and then as you see through Orlando down the I-4 corridor as well. Same deal. It's that 1 out of 5 on the severe weather scale. So there's enough juice to get some stronger thunderstorms going on Saturday afternoon, but still not talking about a widespread severe weather threat by any means. But again, something to be aware of if you have plans this Super Bowl weekend, again, specifically on Saturday, to be outside. Could be ugly at times on Saturday. Now the timeline, and then we'll get into that secondary system that could ride up the East Coast and impact the Mid-Atlantic with some mostly heavy rain, but the mountainous areas could see a little bit of snow with that. So here is 11 o'clock on your Thursday night, and you see some storms through the Big Bend out into the Gulf of Mexico. This is cold front number 1 that's going to trigger that Friday, Saturday severe weather timeline, if you will. Overnight into Friday, we have some storms moving into the panhandle of Florida. So I want to stop this on Friday afternoon. This is 1 o'clock, and you clearly see here where the storms are focusing on, east of Atlanta through south central Georgia, and then right through the panhandle of Florida. This is where that main severe weather threat, again, that 1 out of 5, not 0, but it's not sky high, but this is what we're going to look for, that severe weather threat on Friday afternoon. Note, most of the Florida Peninsula during the afternoon, it's dry. I'm going to show you the temperatures in a few minutes, and you'll see that we're going to be pushing record temperatures, record territory, back to the middle 80s on Friday. Rain chances then start to ramp up a little bit as we get in towards the second part of Friday, really late Friday night. That's 10 o'clock. West of Jacksonville towards the Big Bend, you see scattered showers and thunderstorms, the darker red indicating where we have the best shot again for those stronger thunderstorms. Here we go at 7 o'clock on your Saturday morning. That pushes a little further south now into central Florida, really I-4 corridor, and then points to the north and west. So still dealing with some rain. Nothing too terribly strong here west of Jacksonville or towards the Florida Panhandle. A couple of thunderstorms maybe moving into the I-4 corridor by that time, again, by Saturday morning. I think a lot of that rain you see there then starts to force itself back up the Florida Peninsula and into the southeast by the time we get into Saturday afternoon. I'm going to show you why in a second, and then I'm going to take you out a little more long range into the second half of your weekend, Super Bowl Sunday. So taking it to Saturday now, this is the upper level pattern, and this is one of the reasons why I do think that it's not going to be a total loss down the Florida Peninsula on Saturday until we get to Saturday evening. Here we go at this big upper low. You see that swirl right then and there. That upper low is going to help to pull up all of the moisture as it kind of focuses itself towards the Mid-Atlantic. Now, there's been a lot of rumblings on social media about a big snowstorm moving through the Carolinas and into Virginia. Most of that is garbage. Most of that is hype. I do think we're going to see some snow in the higher elevations of the Blue Ridge Mountains, maybe just to the east of the mountains in the foothills, the extreme foothills. But this is not the proper setup to verify those crazy model runs that you may have seen plastered over social media. I will show you why in a second. Mainly because the cold air is not in place over the Carolinas at this point. But you see where this upper low is, right smack dab where those kind of circles are closed. That's where we will have the opportunity for some snow. We call that dynamic cooling. When you get these big upper lows over an area, you get rising motion to be very efficient. And when air rises, it cools. And that is where we're going to have the best shot. And again, pretty much right over the mountains. We just don't have the cold air in place. This is going to be the European model solution. I'm showing you the European because that is the one that I agree with right now. It's not always the best, but I do think it is handling this situation the best. So that's why I'm showing it to you. We're going to start on Saturday afternoon, and I mentioned about the fronts. We have one front right here. That's where our stationary front is. It's going to be stalled out over the southeast corner of the U.S. Here is our secondary developing area of low pressure, pretty much right out by New Orleans. And then here is the cold front, slicing on through the Big Bend. Okay, now as we bring our trusty eraser back on to kind of get rid of all that for a second, I want to show you what happens as we move into Saturday afternoon and really into evening. We're going to stop this as at midnight on Sunday. Big area of low pressure now moving towards Atlanta. Warm front is kind of draped across the Carolinas. And then we have our cold front moving through central Florida. So this is going to be really the last gasp of this system for Florida. I think as you wake up on Sunday, you could have a few lingering showers in the Florida Peninsula. But then we're going to clear things out as we go through Super Bowl afternoon. Now, different story, though, for our friends in the Mid-Atlantic, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. So I do think there will be snow, but that is mainly going to be tied here where you see the white and pink. That pink represents a wintry mix, and that is mainly in the mountains and then the extreme foothills east of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Note that it's mainly green through Charlotte, Raleigh, so those crazy snowfall amounts that you may have seen on social media, I don't think are coming into fruition. Sorry, snow lovers, but I don't think that's going to happen because the cold air is just not in place. You really need the cold air to be entrenched into these areas when the moisture arrives before to get a good snowstorm. I don't think it's happening this time around. And then this eventually parades up towards Washington, D.C., the Northeast, as we get over into the second part of Sunday. There you have it in terms of that storm. Now, I mentioned about the temperatures. Look at this. 85 degrees in Orlando on Friday. We're in record territory. I do think now we are going to stay in record territory on Saturday. I showed you that storm kind of lifting up and kind of pulling the rain with it on Saturday outside of the Florida Peninsula. That's also going to wrap in some warmer air again and keep us in the 80s on Saturday afternoon in Central Florida. Note where the chill is, though. Still back in Nashville, we're in the 40s in Roanoke as well, Saturday afternoon. Kind of see that bluer color, that lighter pink as well. That's where all of the cold is. This is Sunday at 7 o'clock in the morning. Note where the chill is back in the western part of the country. Still in the 60s, though. Sunday morning, so I think we're still starting things off warm on Sunday. It's not really going to be until Sunday afternoon and into Monday where that chill arrives for Florida. And note how cold it is. There's 7 o'clock in the morning on Monday. This is post all of the precip. So again, we're back to the 30s in Roanoke, 20s in Nashville, but the precip is now gone towards the Northeast and exiting off. So again, if you want snow in the Carolinas, it's just not going to happen unless you're in the higher elevations or directly in the foothills. There's 7 o'clock on Monday, 40s and 50s return to Orlando, and I think our coldest days are going to be that Monday, Tuesday time frame if you live in the Central Florida area. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, the severe weather threat, it's not zero, it's not sky high, but something to be mindful of. Friday, northwest of I-4 and into the Florida Panhandle. Saturday, more to the I-4 corridor. And then I think we clear things out for Super Bowl Sunday. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing if you are a fan of keeping up to date with the weather and tracking the weather with us. Enjoy Super Bowl weekend. Again, be safe if you're in this area. Some heavy rain. And again, that severe weather threat is going to be ramping up just a little bit as we move from Friday into Saturday. Catch you next time, guys.